to Primetime, everybody. I'm your host, Hunter Chambliss, and tonight we are doing a double feature. So, two spoiler reviews, Megan and the menu. And I'm joined by my co host, Chad and Kerri. How's it going, guys?
Kerri?
I, I don't think heartburn can kill you, but it feels like it.
It feels like it.
Yeah, doing great. Have different, a little bit of a differing takes on this one, maybe. I'm not sure, or these ones. But yeah, I think both good movies. And I'm very excited to talk about them. And both sort of on the newer spectrum, one more so.
Yep. So, both of these will be spoiler filled. So, we will start with the one that came out late last year in December, The Menu. So let's give our non-spoiler thoughts for the menu first, and then we'll go into what we liked, what we disliked, things like that. Anyone want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I thought the menu was great. I think it has like a really great, like, kind of screenplay, really great writing in it, really great performances. It's like kind of all stacked with like your leads, your main kind of like villain type role, also a lead, are just like really stellar. And then a supporting with Hong Chow, who is also in the Whale, and she's fantastic in both. And I hope she gets that nomination for the Whale, and maybe even a win. We'll see. But I think the movie's incredible. I really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with it. It's one that's excuse me, I keep doing that. It's one that is it's very funny, but in moments it also like can go straight from you're laughing to immediately after you're kind of like wanting to tear up almost. But then it also does dive into the horror as well. And certain aspects of it gave me Midsommar vibes, and, stuff like that. So, there's a lot to this movie. I kind of want to check it out a second time because there are certain things that I actually like probably didn't notice the first time. And, I just think it's really, really incredible. It's like the second movie, I think, or maybe the third with like Glass Onion. It's like the third movie of 2022 that's like poking fun at the rich and the people that you just want to hate, apparently, or some do, I guess. With this Glass Onion and the Triangle of Sadness. So yeah, I thought this was incredible, and I can't wait to talk spoilers.
Kerri?
Yeah, I really, really like this movie. I would say if you're watching this and you're still watching and you haven't seen the menu yet, definitely try to go into it as blind as you can, because I did feel like the trailer is kind of ruined some things that honestly would have been better as a surprise, or at least it been a more delayed surprise. I don't know, but yeah, the acting isn't. I don't have much more to say. The acting is incredible. The story's really good, and yeah, just very similar. If you like Knives Out, Glass Onion, stuff like that, I'd say you probably will like this movie. It's technically a horror movie, but there's like no jump scares or anything like that. So I think it'd be good for people who aren't necessarily horror fans as well.
Yeah, it's a good like horror thriller. Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, The Menu was my number one favorite horror movie of the year. I've only watched it once though, but I am looking to go back and rewatch it multiple times because of how fun I've had in this film. Like just laughing along with the characters, and then the great performance by Ralph Fiennes. Is fucking like he's terrifying, but he's so funny. He like the clap he does is hilarious. I also liked kind of the small nuances that you notice in the film, which we'll get into, and just like how it mixes great comedy and horror, but also like the food culture. Like you don't have to be a foodie to love this film, but if you are and you connect with that aspect of it, it doesn't feel like it's alienating you as well. It feels like everyone's just kind of having fun with the film, and nobody feels like they're being alienated or left out, which I love.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually another really great point that it gets into that whole food culture, like just like with being a chef. And that had like some good representation this year because they had that show The Bear on Hulu come out, and that's getting nominated and stuff at the Emmys and Golden Globes and things like that. And I thought it was really incredible, that show as well. But it also goes to like a lot of other great films like Ratatouille and Chef and things like that are just like, propping up that chef culture. So yeah, great
Well,
point.
I would say this is actually, poking fun at and kind of trying to examine our current food culture and like, at what point I don't know. This gets actually, if I start talking about that, it's gonna get into spoiler thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say it pokes fun at the foodie culture, but it never feels like it's like poking fun at the people who are consider themselves foodies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, no, I definitely think they're making fun of people who are foodies. I think that's Nicholas Holt's whole character, and it is, not to like a horrible extent, but I think he makes fun of a lot of different people, and I think foodies, especially wealthy foodies in particular, are one of those. Like, yeah, that would also require spoiler thoughts.
Yeah,
exactly how they make fun of that culture.
Yeah, so speaking of spoiler talks, let's get into it. So guys, this is your official spoiler warning for the menu. So where do you guys want to start? You guys want to start at the beginning, pros, favorite moments?
We can get into like what Kerri I think was just alluding to, and just like talk about the food culture and like the rich society and kind of why the chef is doing what he's doing. And maybe that can go into Ray Fiennes' incredible performance, and, that the fact that he wants to kill Harry Potter. So, you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I'll say, I think Nicholas Holt's character is obviously supposed to be kind of the stereotypical like wealthy foodie. He's like, he is so obsessed with the food, and it's a big comedic moment in the film because people are literally dying, or like, and he's like,
he's still eating.
He's still eating. He's like in a race to run for his life. And
I love this scene.
Yeah, and all the other guys are running, and the women are getting served a meal. And Nicholas Hoult is just staring in the window at the woman eating, wishing he could have this meal.
He like pretends to run and doubles back, and he's just like, "What are they eating?"
And at one point, he like runs and then hides up under the stairs, like the least suspicious place you could ever hide.
And I think in addition to kind of like those comedic moments are kind of like, oh, he's so obsessed with food, haha. I think a big part of this movie, though, I thought that was interesting was his character. You find out knew from the beginning that this was going to be, someone where everyone was going to die at the end. He still came. He purposely did not bring his girlfriend. He brought a sex worker. And the scene though where like Ray Fiennes has him come into the kitchen and try to cook.
God.
And he is just part of it, right? He's Foster, but he is so completely incompetent. He doesn't know what even to make. He doesn't know how to chop anything. He doesn't know how to cook the lamb so it's actually edible. Like, I think
lamb and butter sauce.
I think that was kind of, poking fun at. There are these people who are, so obsessed with food and, or critics of food, but yet they can't really function in a kitchen themselves.
That part is like actually pretty devastating. But I think
it is.
I think all of that Kerri said goes to show that it's like it is making fun of that, but I think it's also kind of praising it as well, because like you have the people who like Nicholas Hoult who want so badly to be a part of that, even if they might not exactly know what they're doing or under pressure, and this guy, the chef, knows really how to put that pressure on. And but I also think like I love how it shows kind of like the obsession that people have, like being a chef and food culture is like its own like thing. It just reminds me of like kind of like a parallel between like filmmakers and budding filmmakers and stuff like that. Like, you know, if Steven Spielberg came to you and said make a movie, and you made like you're like, I know film, okay, and then you made a movie and it's really bad, and then Steven Spielberg whispers to you and goes, you should probably fucking kill yourself because you're shit at making movies.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I look at it a little bit.
I would say also it's kind of like I don't know, like Nick, and I think you could, like Chad said, equate this to a lot of different things in life. But it's looking at how obsessed Nicholas Hoult is with the food that other people are creating, but he's not actually creating anything himself. I think that's very interesting, and
It's like a film critic.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
I will say there are some really good, like, oh, where was I gonna go with this? Totally forgot. I hate when it happens. Like, I had my train of thought
yeah,
and it slips away.
it'll probably come back to you. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just a lot of great comedic bits in it.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, I remember now. Sorry.
go ahead.
I actually think when Ray Fiennes is whispering to him, I don't think he told him to kill himself. I think what he said was, "You're not one of us, and you're gonna die either way." Because the way I see it is like Nicholas Holt's character knowingly went there because he thought he was the one that was going to get out. He thought he was going to be the special one that the chef loved, and that, you know, he wouldn't get hurt. And when the chef told him, no, everyone's dying here, including you, but you're not dying as a chef, you're dying as one of the patrons, that set him over the edge.
Oh, that's interesting. I actually never
That's
thought about it that
interesting.
way. I just thought it was, he said you should go kill yourself. But
Mhm.
that's the brilliance of when they do like little whispers like that. They do the same thing, spoiler, at the end of Lost in Translation.
Mhm.
And it's like a lot of these movies that have like little moments like that where you're just like, you can now wonder what that meant or what
Mhm.
it was said, because you'll never know for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, love the naming, like the little titles they have. This one's called Tyler's Bullshit.
Oh
Right.
yes, yeah. That was a really great.
And I think that's why for me, I'm just like, but kind of baffled that this isn't like in the conversation for like a screenplay at the Oscars or anything. Because I'm
Mhm.
just like, you know, it's like broken down into like sections, and it's like really detailed. I feel like the screenplay, it's like
Yeah.
kind of excellent. And like when they're kind of like, you know, going back and forth at the table about the food and, you know, stuff like that. And then, you know, when they have those reveals that Kerri mentioned about, you know, oh, Tyler knew this whole time that everyone was going to die. And like, she's like, what? Like
Mhm.
the way they just reveal stuff like that slowly throughout the course of the film, I think is just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also love that, like, nobody, I mean, besides Tyler being a complete asshole for knowingly bringing someone there, I think,
Mhm.
like, there are some people that are, like, don't deserve to be there, and you kind of, like, sympathize with.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
John,
like the filmmaker guy,
yeah, the actor played by
John
John
Leguizamo.
Leguizamo and his assistant. Like, what? Only because you didn't like one of his films? You're going to murder him?
Think about like all the movies you don't like that, you know, you would put someone there, like, you know, I don't know, maybe Rob Zombie would be there for a
Oh,
lot
for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was I was kind of pretty funny, like the ridiculousness to which like Ray Fiennes was like, "I'm gonna kill you because
I like
this
your
is
movie.
the moment." Yeah, basically, it was like this is the moment where like you were doing it just for the money or something.
Yeah,
And I think Ray Fiennes' character sees that in himself, like he has this
like he's
giant.
sold out.
Yeah, he's sold out. He has this crazy exclusive restaurant. What are they making? Is he kind of pokes fun the entire movie with his menu. It's like most of the time this isn't even really food, or at least. And Anya Taylor-Joy's character, what's her name?
Margot.
Or Aaron, maybe.
Erin, yeah. Well, she refers to herself as Margot for most of the movie. Yeah, kind of, says, this isn't food. This is you're this is like a bastardization of food. You're basically presenting us with the opposite of food, like especially in that dish that's just the
sauces.
just the sauces, the breadless.
Yeah. And then they keep giving the one lady that complains about like the lines and the emotion.
Yeah, the emotion. She keeps bringing her a bigger and bigger bowl of emotion.
And
also, by the
also,
way, there is a piece of paper on the breadless sauces that says that it says something like they're going to donate the bread to someone who needs it or something like that.
oh, that is kind of cool. The other thing that I kind of wanted to throw out there is like a fun little thing is like the price for doing this experience was actually suspiciously low for a bunch of like rich people. I was sitting there thinking about like if that was an actual good experience, I was like, I could see myself like affording that in like a splurging kind of way.
Well, I think the idea is this was just his like this was a meal, that thing he offered. You know, I
Just
think
to get them there.
every month, and then this was just the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. No, I understand. Like, I'm not saying I was just saying that, like, you know, it was a suspiciously low cost.
Yeah, that's true.
For because, like, you know, you're like, you probably are going to stay there, I imagine.
I don't think you stay there overnight. You take the boat back at the end of the night.
Maybe. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't take the boat back.
But it seems like you also had to get reservations, and like, you
Yeah.
know, who do you know to get the reservation?
The other thing that I really loved is just kind of like, you know, Anya Taylor-Joy's or Margot's just like journey through this, because she slowly just kind of like, she goes through the thing where she doesn't know what's going on. She's like, this is stupid. And then she starts to panic, and then she learns and she like figures out how to beat this. And we don't know if she was always going to beat it because, you know, she wasn't a part of the plan anyways, but like she figured out how to, you know, like that moment when she stands up after all his clapping and she claps.
Oh, it's so
like,
good.
Yes. This is the best part of the movie right here.
Yeah.
She insults him and she's like, you're making shit food. And you know,
she has a line about your job is to make food people enjoy, and you failed at your job.
Yep.
Oh,
it's brilliant. And then she's like, you know, I want a nice cheeseburger.
And I think that part like pokes fun. There are these like, you know, no, I won't say every fancy restaurant or anything, but there are these like Michelin-starred restaurants where they basically don't serve you any food, and it's insanely expensive, and they serve like
the small plates
and stuff. They serve you like literally. There's this one, ridiculous. I think it's like a Twitter thread where someone went to this one crazy Michelin-starred restaurant, and like they basically got no food, and like it was all this really weird stuff.
They're at McDonald's afterwards. Like, that was a great experience.
Yeah. Fucking McDouble for like $2, and you're like, hey, I'm full.
The thing about the burger too is actually like really cool because, you know, she knew that because she saw him making
with
a
the
burger,
photo.
And that was like when he looked happy.
Yeah.
And all that. I didn't pick that up like right away, but you know, that's kind of brilliant.
It's also in the movie, it's the only time when he's making her the burger
he
is happy. Yeah.
And he's like, then she's like, now that's a cheeseburger. And then I dare you to watch this, unless you're vegan or vegetarian, I dare you to watch this film and not want a burger.
I know, that burger looked amazing.
Yeah. Well, and it's the only food, right, in this whole movie that looks good.
Yeah.
At least to my palate, like nothing else looks really good to me, appetizing in particular.
And funny enough, it was super cheap too. It was like $9 for like burger and a fries. And I'm like, I would eat that.
Yeah. If Five Guys charge you more for that, if you you probably don't even have a Five Guys, do you?
I don't.
No, it's like up here. I've noticed.
Oh, okay.
It's only up here.
Yeah.
But you know, people have In-N-Out and Shake Shack everywhere.
Well, we don't have In-N-Out here.
We don't. No, unfortunately.
One of my favorite lines actually comes from. It was that scene where he chops off the dude's finger. I think his name is George, who like goes there 11 times.
That's when it starts.
Yeah, and he has a funny line where he's like, you've been here 11 times. Can you name me one meal you've had? And he goes, she says something like, is it trout? He goes, it's not trout, it's halibut, you donkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of the brilliant escalation of the movie too, is like they're slowly getting clues that they're not
Mm-hmm.
just being, well, it's like at first like, all right, are we being fucked with? And then it's like you get like what, like tortillas with like personal information about you,
With
some that
the
like
lasers.
scale,
Yeah.
and stuff
By
like
the
that.
way, fun fact, they actually used real tortillas and had in the film, and they had to find a way to laser print that shit
Oh,
on
wow.
there.
That's incredible.
That's
Hmm.
That's like
crazy.
so detailed. I love that. When they have like such attention to detail, and that. But yeah, it escalates so great because people slowly start to realize something's going on, and then as soon as the finger thing happened, I
Mhm.
think that was the first thing. Because I mean, before that, didn't we get went into the bathroom with Margot?
Wait, was it the suicide first or the finger thing first?
The
I think
suicide was first.
suicide was before the finger thing.
Yeah, because
Okay. So the suicide, if that's
Look it
the
up.
order of events, the suicide is the first holy shit moment. That's the first holy shit moment. And then the finger thing is like the no, it's not just the um
The
because
staff.
staff first, because when you first watch
No, that's not what I said.
oh, sorry. When you're watching the movie, I feel like you're in the shoes more so of the restaurant goers,
Mhm.
because you're following, Anya Taylor-Joy, and at first you're following Nicholas Holt until you find out that he's kind of an asshole. And then you're following her. It is
The suicide is first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's the big holy shit moment. And then you're like, oh, it's just the staff that's crazy. Well, yeah, it is just the staff that's crazy. But then then the finger things happens, and then people slowly start to realize that they're in danger. It's
Hmm.
not that the staff is in
Yes,
danger.
yeah,
So
exactly.
Yeah. Funny enough, and
builds,
like
builds.
I noticed this in the background, and they might have showed it close up. I laughed the first time I saw it. After the sous chef shoots himself, everybody's panicking, and Tyler's over there still fucking eating. I'm
yeah.
like, dude, how
Yeah.
can you eat after that?
Yeah. It's kind of like the absurdity of it goes with the comedy, but
Yeah.
that all those parts, like the suicide, both of the suicides that happen were just really like sad for me, especially Nicholas Holt's,
Mhm.
because like I don't know, I just like feel like he's like taking advantage of people's like insecurities and obsession. They're also their obsession to become like a great chef. And
Yeah, I mean, and it pokes fun at how, in a serious way, like how demanding those types of chefs can be, where
yeah,
they make you feel like, you could never live up to this standard. You can never be good enough, no matter how hard you try. It's like something intrinsically in you is not good enough.
yeah, and not really a spoiler for the bear, but that kind of plays into like that
Yes, yeah.
show where you have, he had like he was at a fancy restaurant with Joel McHale, his boss, who's a piece of shit, and he was like,
Oh, that was Joel McHale.
yeah, that was Joel McHale.
Oh, that's cool. I
and-
love Community.
I do too. So it's great to see him pop up, but he was a piece of shit in this movie or show. And then you see that he like ends up at a restaurant back home or whatever that's like not upscale at all. You should check out that show, Hunter. It's really good.
Okay.
And if you like the food culture type of stuff, it's got a lot of very similar themes
Yeah.
to the menu. And
Okay,
you
sweet.
see that like just because someone can go to an upscale 5-star whatever restaurant and be like the best chef there, the pressure and the intense culture behind it is just so like some people can't handle it, and honestly it probably shouldn't exist at that the way they go about it sometimes.
Yeah. So going back a little bit to the bathroom scene with what's his name? The chef and Margot. That's a really good scene because it's the one scene where we get the most information about
Slower.
Margot, and it's slowly revealed. Like the fact that like they're both in a position of how do I say this? Like entertaining people with the
Mhm.
dinner and the show and the sex work and things like that, and how he doesn't like berate her for her job. He even says, you know, you and I have the two oldest professions, a chef and a sex worker, and they have that connection. And I also think that's why he lets her go at the end, because he sees how strong she is, and the fact that she made him happy with the burger and things, and the fact that sorry that she has that kind of bond with each other of like entertaining people in a way that it's that show of respect from the chef to Margot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I think at first he is almost looking for a way out for her, and he wants her to his for him originally his way out for her is to die with the staff.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and be part of the staff because she is in that service industry as
Mm-hmm.
well. But I think it is her own like ingenuity and like, just at like telling him off, asking for that cheeseburger that pushes him over the edge into being like, okay, I can let her escape and this can still be my final work.
And I think also that goes towards the other big theme of the movie that he talks about is you can strive for perfection, but you can never really reach it. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe him striving for
Mm.
perfection is to be like, I had a plan. She's an anomaly. She is not part of the plan. She is not on the menu. And so, she needs to go. And then he found, like, she helped him find a really good way for him to get her out of there so that he can kill the people that he always meant to kill and not, you
Not
know,
her.
her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would have messed up his plan, and that's not perfect.
Yeah, this film is all about like the idea of reaching for perfection,
Yeah.
and that knowing that no matter what you do, nothing's ever going to go according to plan. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, which again, you can also kind of relate to like the movie industry. People
Yeah.
always are trying to make that perfect movie, but it takes a great director knowing that you can't make something perfect. You can make something very good and close to perfect, but not perfect.
And that's exactly what I was thinking too. And I was going to bring that up if you didn't. Like, it's another tie into like kind of the film industry where it's like, everyone has that movie where they're like, that is a perfect movie.
Mhm.
Jaws, The Godfather, just Citizen Kane. And then you get that one person or maybe multiple people who come in and go, you know what? I don't really dig The Godfather all that much. I thought it was too. I like Apocalypse Now better.
Well, I'll say, I think almost the fact that something like, I don't know, like in the movie industry, like sometimes the things that go wrong are the things that wind up making it like a perfect work of art. Like in
Mhm.
Jaws, for example, the fact that they couldn't get that shark to look very good on screen made them hide the shark for almost all of the movie,
Mm.
which is one of the very things that makes Jaws
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
I think in this movie, it's very similar. Like, Anya Taylor Joy is this like anomaly that shows up and is ruining his whole plans. But the fact that she gets him to make this one final meal that he actually takes pleasure in making for someone
Yeah.
before his final act, and like he ends it not the way he wanted to with killing everyone, but I think even then he's still like happy with it being perfect in a way that was different from what he originally thought it would be,
Mhm.
or imperfectly perfect. I don't know.
No, that's an interesting idea. Something to think on for
I don't
sure.
know.
Oh yeah.
I like that.
The next, so going back a little bit, the next death is the Hawthorne angel investor who gets fucking drowned on like an angel like
Oh yeah.
Angel
crucifix,
Wing.
angel wings.
Yeah.
I laughed so hard at the three dudes who were like, he kept you open during the pandemic.
Yeah, it's like that brilliant blend of comedy with tragedy and horror and just like all of that together. Because like obviously that's a horrific moment. Like people know that they're about to watch somebody die and they can't do anything about it. Like even after watching someone literally, shoot themselves dead all over the place, that's still like, they can see it slowly happening, and then what's going to happen as it's happening, and you're like, it's not sudden, you're like, don't do what you're about to do. And it's just, yeah, it's terrifying. But then, like you said, Hunter threw out that there's also comedy in that moment, which is incredible how they do that.
Yeah, well, and I think it's an interesting point that the film makes, like what Hunter said about like, oh, they kept you open during the pandemic. Like, just because you do like one good thing or you donate to charity or whatever, like he did, keeping the restaurant open during pandemic, doesn't mean you're still not an awful person that's like skimming money from the top, or like doing all these other awful things that are more detrimental to society.
Yeah.
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 And also,
although I think he just does kill him because he wanted him to do the restaurant his way, and like,
well,
very petty.
his exact line was, he always wanted to make changes to the menu, and there's no substitutions.
Yeah.
That, and I mean, honestly, if you're about to kill every single person around you, people that you hate, you're gonna go for the boss.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
It's just like the John Leguizamo kill, though. It's like almost like it's so petty. You're like, really? That's your motive, though? Like,
right.
Yeah. So then we have, right after that, we have the oh yeah, the chef allowing the female sous chef, or the female chef, to stab him because
Hong
she
Chow.
Yeah, or no, not Hong Chow. It's
No.
the blonde one who actually came up with the idea.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, because he said that he came on to her like sexually.
Sexually assault, or yeah.
He apologized, and then she stabbed him.
And then that's the funny moment where like he allows everyone to run, and the guy, which this feels like a Wes Anderson moment, which I heard on a podcast, and it's so true, where he's like, all right, 45 seconds starts, and then the guy just runs immediately ahead. He's like, now go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
I thought talking about like right after that scene where all of the women have the meal together, I think it's very interesting that the entire time, as much like the chef, and Margot talk about Margot being a sex worker, the chef specifically asks Margot her real name, though, and Margot refuses to tell him. The only place she admits her real name is in front of the other women. The chef never knows what her real name is. She really only reveals, her background, where she's from, her real name, in front of this smaller group of women.
Yeah, I was always kind of wondering about that, because it at on the face, it kind of almost seems like a throwaway line, like, oh, by the way, my name's Aaron, I'm from wherever, and then you're just like, okay. But I do agree with Kerri. I think there's something there. Like, there's a reason why she said it right then and there. Never again. Kerri's on to something there. I don't know what it is, but she's on to something.
I don't know. It might be just like the trust in that situation. They're all like going through this horrible thing.
And I think that was before the female chef mentioned, oh yeah, this is all my idea, because I think the whole idea was that the women were going to try to like convince her to let them go, as like kind of connect, and that's why Margot goes, oh yeah, my name is Aaron, blah blah blah. She gives kind of her backstory because she's trying to gain the trust of the chef, and then everything just goes awry when she's like, oh yeah, it's my idea, and everyone's just like, really?
Yeah.
And then yeah, and what's funny is like everyone is like, the chef, the female chef is crying because like she thinks she's not appreciated. And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, it's good," and then everyone immediately turns on her when she finds out that this whole plan was her idea.
Yeah.
Again, the comedic timing.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. Like, how much can these people they're like living, like the chef and his staff are like living together. They only see each other, so you can kind of see like how they just kind of feed into each other in this like crazy environment and how toxic it's become. It's become so toxic that they're just all killing themselves and other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this also like again has that Midsummer vibe because it does feel like a cult almost.
Yeah.
Like people living on like the crew living on the premises in the little huts or whatever. The the head chef is living up in the big mansion on the top of the hill. Like it feels like this is all like a Jonestown type type cult. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it is also symbolic of like not just maybe the restaurant environment, but other similar environments where, for some of these people that are working in these high end restaurants, they are almost on an island unto themselves because all they're doing is working, going home to sleep, and that's it. And their whole life is work. And I think that applies to any industry that's kind of run like that.
Well, I've kind of also heard that's how like SNL cast members are. They basically live at 30 Rock and just like
Damn.
yeah, they rarely see. I mean, I guess it works for Colin, right? Because his
That's how
wife is a movie
it applies
star.
to so many industries. Like that's how all the people who do these effects for like big budget Marvel movies, when they have those contracts, they work themselves to death almost trying to get these projects finished.
Yeah.
The deadlines they're given are so insanely short, and without the proper staff, like I think you can apply it to a lot of different industries.
Definitely, with video game people like.
I can't tell if this is me or
what
was that me or you guys? Because you guys froze on my end.
Oh,
maybe us.
I don't
know. Are we back though?
Yeah, you're good.
We were just talking about the different industries that are overworked and stuff, like
Yeah,
the effects artists over at Marvel, and then also like video game artists that when they have a game coming out, a lot of the times they have to work super super hard, like not see their families and not really get paid. It's not like they get paid like a crazy amount or anything, so it's stupid.
Yeah. All right. So towards the end of the film, that's where we have the Margot finds the ham radio in Julian's house, and she calls the Coast Guard. And I love this scene so much because I thought for a second that everything was gonna be okay. And even like he sees John Leguizamo, he's like, "Oh, I love that film you're in." What's funny is when he says that, John looks over to the chef. He's like, "Somebody likes it." He doesn't look like, see, people like this movie.
And then the other kind of thing is like, I guess everybody else could probably be like, wait, that guy's in on it because no one would like that movie.
Yeah, nobody would like this. Yeah, it's like, nah, dude, that is clearly The Pest, and nobody likes it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're so right, Hunter.
Yeah, no, yeah, that The Pest would probably be that movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was also a very great scene because like this whole movie, you don't know what the hell is going on. You don't know what to expect next. And then when this scene comes up, you thought maybe they couldn't surprise you again. And for me, this was also a total surprise. I think Kerri called it like earlier than I did. Like, I think he's in on it. And then I'm like sitting there like, I thought he was going to die. And then
Yeah,
I think he's in on it.
Yeah, because I can't remember if it's the same picture as the cheeseburger or if it's another picture that Anya Taylor-Joy looks at. It was kind of weirdly framed, like it focused in on like a bearded guy. You couldn't really see his face. It focused in on a bearded guy at first, and then further focused in on Ray Fiennes.
Ooh.
I was like, why would they have that shot like that? And then the Coast Guard guy is like,
Makes
bearded.
sense.
So I
Yeah.
was like, maybe it's the same guy, or maybe it's just, a little bit of foreshadowing.
We'll probably know on rewatch. We'll go, yes.
I can't wait to rewatch this movie because these little Easter eggs are gonna be so cool to go back and check.
Yeah.
It's gonna be cool to see Nicholas Holt's performance,
Yes.
knowing that he's
Knowing that he
Just
knows.
thinking
Yeah.
that, I was like, we're gonna see him as the silly asshole from the beginning now, like, because he's such a great actor too. I just want to throw that because Anya Taylor-Joy's fantastic, Ray Fiennes fantastic, just in general. But
Yep.
Nicholas Hoult has always blown me away. Like I didn't know who he was when I first saw like Warm Bodies back in the day when he
Warm Bodies, yeah.
when he was like first getting his start.
Mhm.
Well, not first getting because he was in About a Boy as a kid.
Yeah.
But like after that, like dude in freaking like Mad Max Fury Road.
Mhm.
And now he's going to be in Renfield. So
Renfield looks so
I'm
good.
so excited for his future career because he's been so great and I love him.
Yeah.
So yeah, we find out that the Coast Guard officer who comes in is actually reveals himself to be a line cook working for Julian. A great twist. A great little twist in the middle of the movie. I didn't really see that coming. I like Chad thought he was just gonna die. I thought like Julian was just gonna kill him. Then of course we have the cheeseburger scene where Margot says, "I want a cheeseburger." And again, what's great about this is as you watch him make the burger, he's not stressing. This is comfort to him. He's making his comfort food because he even has like the plaque that says like employee of the month for this burger restaurant. Like that's where he got his start, and that's what makes him happy, and that's what ends up leading him to like, I guess, have that one final like I made a customer satisfied enough to where I'll let her go because again she's not part of the plan. And then we get the s'more scene, which is so fucking funny.
For me, I veer into, and this is kind of like where I differ with Midsommar as well, is because there's this very specific. If you haven't seen that movie, spoilers for Midsommar, but they do a very similar thing to the s'mores thing at the end of that movie, and for me, I barely find any comedy in it.
Barely.
Got it. Because it's so like dreadful that it's, I mean, kind of like the Hereditary ending. It's just like very dreadful that for me, I'm just like, none of these people actually deserve what's happening to them. No one does. And I would just be like, I put myself in their shoes and I'm like, what a horrible way to die.
I feel like usually we're kind of opposite where sometimes I take stuff like so literally I can't get past it to like the metaphor. Although I'll say this and Midsummer, I really like the endings of
I do too.
both, and I don't know. I kind of can shut off that part of my brain that's like, oh my God, this is like the worst way to die. Like,
oh. I mean, I'm not saying I dislike both of those endings.
No,
I'm just saying like I don't like, some people go like, good, that guy was an asshole, and I'm like, what the fuck? You're like cheering for somebody dying that way. You're the asshole if you think that. See, that's okay.
I just like Midsummer. I just like the ending of that. I don't know. It's not like good for. It's more like, when Florence Pugh smiles at the end, it's kind of like, man, that's so messed up. But like, also like, I don't know. It's just like.
And you also, I saw someone made the point for that ending too. Well, don't worry. We're going to do a Ari Aster double.
We need to, yeah.
Soon. Because we have to watch the director's cut of Midsommar. And then
I need to as well.
Maybe I'll change my opinion there a little bit. Because I like Midsommar. I just don't love it as much as a lot of people do. But like, also I think maybe you had the same point. It's like, it's not like she won or anything. She's also in this, like she
In
found
this
her
cult.
home,
Yeah.
but she's also kind of fucked still because she's with these crazy people.
Yeah.
She'll probably end up killing
And
herself
so
at one
she just
point.
traded one toxic relationship
For another.
Interesting.
And that's kind of, which I promise you guys we'll get back to the menu in a minute, but I think that's kind of the point of the ending, is that like she just knows, like, toxic relationships. So she goes from one to another, and finally she thinks she's happy because she's free, but in her mind she knows that this is just another, it's a vicious cycle. She's just caught in this toxic cycle.
Yeah.
So it's not supposed to be this happy ending where, like, yes, the dude dies. It's like, no, this is kind of a depressing ending because it's just going to continue worse and worse and worse for her.
Yeah. And I'm on the fence a lot of the times with like crazy, like bleak, depressing endings. Like I get it. It's like a lot of people love the bleak shit and like horror movies, but even dramas and stuff like that. A lot of the times people are like, oh man,
Usually
I need to
hate
get in the
it.
fetal position right now.
Usually I hate it,
But in this one, it's kind of both in the menu because you have like pretty much everyone except for Anya Taylor-Joy dies.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a lot of these people where you're like, yeah, a lot of them are like rich assholes, but like they didn't deserve that. Holy shit. Like turning into literal s'mores. That's like insane. But at least in this one, Anya makes it out alive because you could even say that Florence Pugh's character, she'll be alive, who knows for how long, but at least Anya's going to be alive for
Yeah. And I actually think what's cool about the menu is that they tell you exactly what's going to happen early on. They're like, you all are going to die. And that's kind of setting up the ending of the movie. So I kind of knew that they were all going to die. I just didn't know how. So to me, it didn't really hit that, oh, they all died. This sucks. It's like, okay, which way are they going to die? And is Anya Taylor-Joy's character going to make it out? Those are the questions I had.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I didn't know they were. I knew that was the plan, but I didn't know if the plan could have gotten foiled. But
by the way, I love the fact that they all paid before they died. Yeah. They all took their cards.
It's so funny.
Yep.
They're like, really? I gotta pay for my death? Okay, fuck it here. I don't know.
And that's the other thing too, is I keep forgetting that like they're all also in a way complicit in their own deaths, because he even told them, he's like, why didn't you guys fight me? You guys could have fought more to like get away.
Mm-hmm. I guess. I don't know. I feel like they
like at one point. No, look, seriously, if someone's putting s'more stuff on me and I understand what that's going on, I'm gonna run. At that point. Yeah, I'm gonna run. But they're all just sitting there like, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
Well,
some of them even seem to just be kind of accepting of it and like,
maybe I deserve this, or I don't know.
That's true.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I will, like, the end of this movie is so badass because it's just Anya Taylor-Joy eating the burger and then she wipes her mouth on the actual menu. Yeah. Which I want to watch this and like expand that scene and read what the actual menu says. I wonder if they have them like in the sequence of order that is in the movie. Like if every meal is called that, like the photo that we see in the movie.
Yeah.
Like Tyler's bullshit. I wonder if that made it in just like on pencil or whatever.
Maybe because he probably had that planned. He knew Tyler was going to be there.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So he could have like Tyler's bullshit, just like nothing on there.
Yeah. Check that out. Let us know. Are we done with the menu? Are we finished our meal? Or
yeah. Unless you guys want to bring us something else real quick.
I think I'm good. We might find out other stuff on a rewatch.
Yeah.
I think it's a great movie. I don't think it's gonna get a Best Picture nomination. But
very hard for horror at the Oscars. We talked about this.
Yes, I understand that, but the menu is also kind of like a Parasite, where it's a little bit
yeah
mixture. of a
Mhm.
lot of different, like there's a lot of the horror crowd, I'm sure, have been saying, well, Menu's not a horror movie. And then a lot of other people like us are like, oh, it's totally a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
But
horror comedy.
it's a horror comedy, but it's a drama in a way. There's just a lot of different aspects to it
Mhm.
that I could totally see this being like a full-fledged like best pick, but it's just not in the conversation like that. But I kind of wish it was because I think this movie is incredible.
Yeah. So one more thing on the menu, I can see movies like this and like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies being this generation's like Scream for people back in the '90s, where like it's a movie that like people can rewatch over like every single year and like learn it, because it's not like a Hereditary or a Midsummer where it's real dark and like you have to be invested in the film. I can put on the menu, laugh, have fun, and then see some really cool innovative scenes. Same with Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I can enjoy these characters, the script writing, how clean and funny it is. These are great like balance of like horror comedies that I love is coming back.
Yeah, Bodies, 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 which we'll also probably have to review at some point, was one that did remind me of kind of a nuanced Scream. I
Mm.
thought that it was more of, I said this before when we did our 2022 thing, but I think this felt more like a nuanced Scream film than the Scream film that came out last year for me. And Bodies, 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 I just thought was so incredibly written like that. I don't agree that the menu is like a lot like Scream, but I understand where you're
Yeah.
coming from as far as it being a great horror comedy that you can have fun with, because I agree with that.
Mm. Kerri, any thoughts on that before we go into Megan?
No.
All right, so let's get into Megan. So again, we'll start with non-spoiler thoughts, then we'll go into spoilers. Chad and Kerri, go ahead and give you guys your non-spoiler thoughts.
Megan, I thought was really good, not necessarily great. I thought it was a little bit like a lot of other films put together, but then also I liked a lot of like what was in it. I like some of the actors that are in it. I like some of the themes. I think are really cool. The doll's very creepy. But then I'm sure Kerri will talk about this. It wasn't like really all that scary either though. And I don't know. I feel like there's probably some sort of like pacing issues, and then I don't know, maybe also, if I watch it again at home in a different environment, maybe it'll be a little bit different. But I thought it was somewhat funny, but I don't think it was as funny as a lot of people really wanted it to be. Like I felt like there was a lot of forced laughter in the theater, but maybe that was just kind of like my impression of it. I thought it was a better straight horror movie than it was a horror comedy. There's also other parts that happen in it that's a horror trope that I really hate, and it also kind of made me dislike the main character as well, a little bit. But all that being said and done, it's a really interesting January release that's actually really successful. Which, if you like the movie, love the movie, hate the movie, whatever, it's like really cool that like Scream 5, and then also this movie just being like
Mm-hmm.
banger January horror films that are successful. That it's like making the horror genre better and making people go, you know what? It's actually okay if we drop a horror movie in January because it might do really well. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed this one. I'm glad we got to see it because I've been kind of hyped to see it ever since a lot of people were like, this is a crazy movie, kind of like Malignant. I don't think it goes that far as Malignant does, but it's fun
And you know why it's compared to Malignant, right?
because James Wan wrote it.
James Wan didn't write either of them.
He wrote the
Malignant
Megan.
was written by Akila Cooper, who
Yeah, Kelly Cooper.
again.
Well, Megan also was written by James Wan. I saw his name in the credits.
Story by James Wan. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Correction. No, but thank you for shouting out her name because I think she's an incredible writer.
Yeah, she's been writing.
What was her name again?
Akila Cooper, and she She wrote Megan, she wrote Malignant, and she wrote Hellfast, which is a movie Hunter recommended to us.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that movie.
She is. I think she is going to continue to bring us some really fantastic, interesting scripts.
I thought Malignant was actually really well written. Like a lot of people like didn't want to jump on that train because it was so different. But like I loved that because I'm like James Wan, he's doing what he wants, and what he wants is pretty incredible.
I think you can see the similarities though. Like Megan is almost a little bit tones down from what Malignant is. Malignant like going very hard with like the giallo and like kind of the ridiculous aspects of horror. Megan goes a little bit less hard with those ridiculous aspects, but it's still, I think one of the really clever things about this movie was, I don't know, it knew what it was. It knew it's a movie about like a killer AI doll, and I think it leaned really nicely into that. Like it didn't shy away from all these like kind of like little ridiculous things. It kind of leaned into them and like made jokes out of them, which I thought was really clever and funny. I think overall this was just a very fun movie. I don't know, just and I like it because, you know, when we got the Child's Play remake, I think a lot of people were like, this didn't really need to be Child's Play. It could have just been its own thing. I think kind of more what Megan is. It's like a similar concept, you know, killer doll, but it's totally and completely its own thing.
Child's Play remake was scarier.
Probably. Megan wasn't very scary, but
I still have nightmares
really
from
fun.
That movie. Child's Play.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Spoiler alert for Child's Play remake. The
I
head.
remember that.
Head stuff really gets to me. If someone gets like decapitated, it's a head.
We're going to clip that scene out. Chat,
still spoilers because the boyfriend, like Chucky kills the boyfriend. They takes his head, and it's like a gift, and they wrap it as a gift.
Right, yeah.
And I'm just like, if someone finds that, that's the scariest thing I've ever
that is pretty scary.
Of.
Yeah, I will say the Child's Play remake actually has one of my favorite like death scenes in like the Child's Play series, and it's when Buddy is like controlling the temperature, and the thing gets hotter and hotter on the janitor. He just goes straight down onto the chainsaw, the table saw.
That's also very scary. It was a very well done movie.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Kerri mentioned this, but this is also written by Akilah Cooper and story by James Wan as well.
That's what Chad said. He was correct.
Oh, okay.
I made sure that James Wan was known. I love James Wan. He's such a
James Wan is one of the best horror directors working today.
Definitely. Him and Lee Winnell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into my thoughts on Megan. I really liked this movie. I think I liked it more than a lot of people did. Only because I could see kind of I'm not going to say it took the source material really seriously, but there was some great grounded moments of like the story between like a niece and her aunt, and like her aunt becoming a parent and things like that really hit home of like somebody who wasn't ready to be a mom or to take care of her niece, but when put in a situation, she used what she knows best, which is technology, and pretty much tried to make the technology parent the child. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of parents do nowadays. They're just putting them in front of TVs or computers or iPads and just letting the technology just kind of parent for them. And I like how the message doesn't like take a side, but it's like it kind of rides the line of like, we understand why you do it, but maybe you shouldn't. Maybe dealing with trauma and dealing with the grief is better than letting it, simmer and boil to a point where you need technology to rely on, which is what I love about the kind of the story behind it. But also there are like a lot of fun moments that I love, like the hallway dancing scene. Again, like not spoiler because it's in the trailer. I love that scene. I think that scene is hilarious. The little dance she does, um, and they're also great like murderous scenes that don't show the actual deed. Like you get just enough to like, okay, now my mind can pick stuff apart and be like, that's what happened to him.
Well, and I think a lot of that too was they decided to make this a PG-13 movie, and then I think
Yeah.
they're supposed to be coming out with an unrated cut that shows more of those kills.
Which I may think I'll like the unrated cut version more because I understand why they made it PG-13 because you know the Megan scene of her dancing went viral on Twitter on TikTok, not Twitter, TikTok, and they wanted more teens and stuff to be able to go in and watch it. I get that, but I also really want to see what the director had in mind for these long death scenes. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
especially if they did take the time to film them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say if this like kind of, I guess you would call it a neutered version of Megan that hit theaters, like was just the real version. I'm like, the way it's like you don't show it's not, it's what you don't show is kind of like doesn't really super work for me because I'm just like, well, it's not like brilliant like Halloween or anything like that. It's you know um
Yeah, it wasn't like born of
it's
necessity. It was more
yeah,
like a studio decision to make
Mhm.
this amount of money from this movie.
it's like it feels this movie wants to be gorier, but it's just not.
Which again, it did work because the movie made like 10 times its budget back already, and they've already announced a sequel, Megan 2.0, which is coming out in 2 years on January 17th, 2025. Um, so if you guys are ready to get into the actual spoilers, this is gonna be fun. I
Yeah.
can't wait. By the way, Violet McGraw, who plays Katie in this film, I love that actress, but she was also in The Haunting of Hill House. She played the daughter, and she is so great in that.
I mean, you're talking to like two Flanistans here
Flanistans, I love it.
She's also
in Doctor Sleep.
in Doctor Sleep. She's the little girl Violet.
Oh, she is, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she's in more of it too in the director's cut of Doctor Sleep as well.
I still gotta watch that. That's like 3.5 hours.
And then her
Well,
sister.
it's not. It's just 3 hours, I think.
We already talked about this, I think, but her sister is actually the little girl in Black Phone.
Right. You're right. That's
Really, I didn't know that.
really cool fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Hunter, Violet, Megan, the doll was not my draw for this movie. I saw that Violet was in this movie, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll go see it. Like,
Not gonna lie, for me, it was Allison Williams, just because I love her in Get Out, and oh man, she kicks ass in this movie too.
yeah, of course, and she's the one that I stopped liking for a second. So that's.
I'm curious, what is that scene that we're in spoilers now?
At one point, after Violet's character gets bit by the dog, she's like, "If you don't put that dog down, I will." I'm like, "That's the villain of the movie." Is Allison Williams? No, yeah. If you advocate for putting a dog down, you're the villain. I just want to make that absolutely clear. I know he bit someone, but she was reaching her hand through the fence.
I'm gonna say the dog because this is movies. The dog bit her because the dog knew she was a robot, an evil robot. And dogs in movies have a sixth sense for evil. I mean, it is an unfortunate.
They do. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, there is an unfortunate reality where some dogs, for whatever reason, whether it's training or or lack thereof, are very dangerous to people, unfortunately. But
I didn't mean to send this down a weird road.
Sorry,
but that's just a trope.
I think animal violence is one thing we don't usually.
Yeah,
they actually didn't show enough of it in this movie to
which I'm actually okay with.
Yeah, very.
It's kind of even like Halloween, where he's technically like strangles a dog, but all you see is the dog's legs.
Yeah,
which I'm okay with. I'm like, okay, well, if you're gonna kill an animal, But like Evil Dead 2013, part of why I don't love that movie is because of what they do.
I'll
to that
say
fucking
Smile,
dog.
a big knock
Hated
on that movie was the cat in
Yes.
that movie.
Yeah.
That was that kind of like I like had a bad time.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's that for me. It didn't make me dislike the movie
Yeah.
or the character. Actually, like
Mhm.
I went or whatever, fine. But like there was kind of like a big kind of like plot line where it was like, you know, fuck you to the neighbor, fuck you to the dog. And I'm like, you know, yeah, the neighbor wasn't a very nice person, but like it doesn't mean that her and her dog should die.
Well, yeah, and I think also part of it's like I don't think you're really supposed to like Allison Williams' character until pretty late.
Yeah.
She's like kind of very self-involved. She very easily, they make it kind of clear that the hole in the fence is her responsibility and
Yeah.
she's supposed to be getting it fixed, and yet she's
Mhm.
like constantly blaming the neighbor for like a dog that, you know, you can only do so much with a dog that you can't
Yeah.
just tell it not to do
She
something.
was a bad dog owner, but
Allison Williams should have, like, you know, it was
Got it
like
fixed.
it's
Yeah.
funny because yeah, she like, you know, has this like very posh life and she's like very successful at her job, but she can't do
Mhm.
kind of like these things that a lot of people would consider pretty basic, like, you know, getting the fence fixed and like
Yeah. I will say, I'm not defending what she said to the owner and about the dog, but I will say, in the service of the scene, because she had just gotten Katie, she just got the robot, so again, she's not prepared to be the guardian of Katie, and she's
right.
already got the stress from that, the stress from work, and the dog just bit Katie, and Megan is gone, so all that kind of just, and I mean, she has the robbery with the neighbor, so she's at max level of stress that just came out. I don't think she actually meant it that way. It's just something that when you get so angry and something just happened to your niece, and then that just comes out. You know what I mean?
yeah, I do think she is meant to be a little bit of, you know, like a Karen in that part because she does continue,
Oh,
like
yeah.
when she's
Yeah.
talking to the police, she's like, that dog better be put down. There's nothing
Yeah.
you can do. Like,
Yeah.
I think she is supposed to be
She's
a
literally
little bit
having
like
a conversation with him. He's like, dude, we can't put the dog down because the dog. And then she's like, and I'm like,
in reality,
this
though,
lady.
that dog probably would be put down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate people like that. And I will not apologize for that because, you know, animals should be treated a lot better. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's just like the way I'm a horror fan. But when anything like that happens or when I know it's about to happen, because horror does this all the time,
Hmm.
I'm like, will you guys please just stop? That's why I will applaud and champion any movie that has the guts to not kill an animal.
Prey.
Dude,
Great movie.
Prey, fantastic movie. Dude, just like, why?
Technically, the predator is an animal.
It's an alien.
That's good.
It technically is not because it is an alien.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, technically humans are animals.
Yeah.
But I just mean like
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Any horror movie.
lower forms of animals, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, sorry, cats, you are not lower forms.
So yeah, into the start of this movie, we start right off with the car crash that takes Katie's mom and dad, and that scene was fucking rough, man. It starts off like with a big dramatic moment, which I like. I like that this doesn't shy away from the big dramatic moments, and it lets you breathe. It doesn't do joke after joke. It lets you breathe and simmer in these kind of dark and dramatic moments, and then later on they'll have jokes and things like that. It's a perfect balance.
I thought it was really interesting because they like started out with the whole these little pets, they're like Furbies.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and you know that's not going to be like the main thing for Megan, but when she has one and she like kind of drops it into the floorboard and then she goes to get it, I thought that whole thing was going to cause the parents to wreck, and then she was going to be safe because she was in the floorboard. And then she got it and she got back up, and then the accident happened. I was like, what the fuck was the point of her dropping the thing in the floorboard?
I think it was a fake out a little
Oh.
bit. And I think I like that it did that though, because I think if it would have been like, she caused the accident because she got out of her seat, and then she's like traumatized because she's the one who not really caused, it's not her fault.
Actually,
I like that. It's not, we don't add that extra layer of trauma.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that would have made it a little bit more interesting. Like, I understand it's like, well, it's going to be trauma either way because your parents or whatever, but it's like, if she would have like felt like she would caused it, and then maybe like, Megan's not the one that can have that emotional response to tell you that it's not your fault, then you can have a good Will Hunting type moment with Allison Williams, like, no, it's not your fault.
Well,
and then you realize that you need an actual mother and not a test. See, I'm a better writer than the writers of Megan. Sorry, James Wan.
I think it avoided a very commonly used trope. And I think there's enough of those moments where clearly Megan isn't.
Then why have a stupid fake out then if you're not going to go for it?
I actually think it wasn't a big fake out. I think it was just that because she dropped it and then her mom was like, put your seatbelt on. She turns back and then it happens. I think it's supposed to be like where both parents just kind of look for 1 second and then they get into a crash. So it wasn't her fault, but it was like a quick second of like, hey, put your seatbelt on, boom.
They turn around. Yeah, they didn't. They like had fully stopped. That happened and then they fully stopped in the road because they didn't put
fully start. Yeah.
I was like, why all this weird build up? I don't know. It just felt like a lot of that stuff it wasn't really necessary. But I mean, it's not a big deal. We're not it's not a dissertation on the film here.
I will say one of my favorite scenes is when they're at the park and Katie is like, playing with Megan and she turns her off and she has that scene with Katie where she's like, look, it's okay and natural and good to let the grief, to accept it and try to work through it instead of keeping yourself distracted all the time. I like that dialogue they had because it felt like a real moment. It felt like, okay, like this is the moment where what's her name? I'm sorry. Allison Williams' character. Gemma. Where Gemma finally becomes that parent that Katie needed in this moment, to me at least.
Yeah.
Are you talking about at the park or like, because there's another scene where Katie is kind of like throwing a fit because Megan has been taken away in the demonstration room, and Allison Williams I think does a really good job of like, I don't know, like telling her it's okay, you should be feeling this way. Mm-hmm. Like your parents died, you should be feeling this way, and instead of distracting yourself.
Maybe it's that scene. I could have sworn it was the park, but I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, because I know they like talk about like her creating like kind of like a toxic like dependency on Megan with her and probably every other kid that has had trauma or maybe even not had trauma, like being attached to Megan like that. If they were to mass produce this and they could afford $10,000 to buy Megan, their very own Megan, but it's the only toy that they'll have for the rest of their life or whatever. Really want to have a toy for the rest of your life because you're not going to be able to naturally grow the way. Wait, where was I going with this?
I started saying stuff from the
movie. Yeah, we were on the Gemma and Katie scene about the trauma, and you just like, it's funny, you're just like kind of going off. You're like, what now? I'm sorry. I do that constantly.
Yeah.
Let's see.
The one thing that I really liked about this movie is because as soon as before she even made Megan and then they introduced Bruce, I was like, Bruce is coming back at the end.
For sure.
I know that's coming back at the end. And I love the fact that like the whole arc and growth of Katie is that, she's so dependent on Megan, but then she realizes that Megan is not her friend. And then she has the gloves, and you don't know she has the gloves until she does. It's like, you need to meet someone else.
Well, and the thing that enables Katie to help finally defeat Megan is from that very first connection that Katie and Gemma had, where Gemma was explaining how the robot worked to Katie, and like, here's how the gloves work, and here's like where all of its thoughts and processes are. So like
it was spending time
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually it was it was taking Gemma's passion for technology, but also giving her an excuse to be like, I'm gonna, spend time, quality human time with my niece who needs it at this point, which I love.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yes.
if you're gonna get any like great theme from this movie, I think that's it.
Yeah, because that's the first conversation they actually have in the movie.
Mm.
Um,
I also love that, like, because in this film, like, yes, Katie lost her parents, and that's tragic. But I like the scene where Gemma is just sitting alone in her desk, and she reaches for the photo of her sister, and you realize at that moment, yes, Katie lost her parents, but also Gemma lost a sister,
Mhm.
and it's like, god damn, like, there's a lot of great dramatic scenes that really allow them to like simmer. Like, it doesn't just like jump from one emotional scene to a wild like action scene like immediately. Like, it gives you time to kind of like digest that scene.
The other part that I really liked about the movie is Ronnie
As the
Chang,
he is so funny in
who
that movie.
plays kind of like he's not like the CEO, I don't think, but he's like a major like head or whatever. Like he can make
mhm.
decisions. And he's a stand-up comedian, so he's funny in real life. And I really enjoyed listening to some of his comedy, and I liked his part in this movie because he comes in because he has a whole bit where he's talking about like if an Asian person ran the country, they would get things done because they don't care. All they care about is results. And so that kind of like played into this character for me where he comes in and just starts yelling at Allison Williams' character like, "We need results." I was like, "That's yeah."
I liked because you would think because that Megan dancing scene is in the trailer, like you've kind of seen the whole scene, haha, it's funny, it's not going to get as much of a laugh in the theater, but I think it does because what you don't have in the trailer is like Ronnie Cheung's reaction to that dance and her picking
Megan.
up the blade, and she's like,
Yeah.
"Oh hell no!" Like runs away.
Yeah,
Like
he's fantastic in the movie. I love his reactions. I especially also his reaction because he's so against Allison Williams in this. He's like, you need to focus on this because we need
Mhm.
to make money. And then as soon as he sees the thing with Megan, he's like, holy shit! Like we
We
gotta
need to mass produce this shit now.
somebody write me up something so I know what I'm talking about.
I love that line. Somebody write something up so I know what I'm saying. What's
So
funny is
I don't
I'm pretty
say
sure he I'm pretty sure he asked Gemma to write it down for him too.
yeah.
Um, I think speaking of the dancing, though, I know Hunter brought it up earlier. Kerri just brought it back up. I thought there was going to be way more of that stuff in it because I remember like *Malignant* had all that crazy physical stuff.
Mhm.
I thought *Megan* was going to be like a lot more of that, and I felt like they got to it way so late because I remember like it was like Violet like teaching her to dance or whatever or like
Mm.
whatever, and then she used it like once later, and I was like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of liked that this movie, like as compared to *Malignant*, they're very different films in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
This one, I think, made more room for, like Hunter was talking about, like serious, genuine moments.
Mhm.
Where I think *Malignant* is more like intended to be like kind of almost pure.
Over the top.
Yeah.
but I think at that point, I think that's why *Megan* is less fun in that because it has too
Yeah.
many of the deep talking
Well, I guess
sequences.
it's less fun, but I would
Yeah.
say I don't know. I like.
See, to me, I would much rather have the film that we have where it's like it's more of a story first and then you get the great, action set pieces and things over something that's just gonna be like a January horror film that's gonna be nothing but like kind of over the top scenes, which are fun, but I think this has a perfect balance because you get those great moments, but you also get a really good story behind it. And to me, I love horror with a great backbone to it, and this has that to me.
I mean, you're talking to somebody who loves like most of the things that the critics love for
Hmm.
when horror fans are like, why doesn't the critics like horror? I'm like, bro, the critics do like horror. They just don't like the horror that you like
You
that's
like?
dumb or whatever. Not always. Sometimes they are
Mhm.
a bit unfair, but I don't know. I honestly, still think, and that's why I think this had some pacing issues for me because it goes from like
Mhm.
one talking scene to another talking scene to, and I just feel like sometimes you can have too much of the buildup of the story. But I gotta say, I probably will be able to formulate that opinion on a rewatch.
Mhm.
I like this. I think it had more story than we probably deserve for a movie about
That's
a
what I'm
killer
saying.
doll.
I think,
But I
yeah.
I like that it did that. It's kind of different and unique, right? Like it's not
No,
just
Not gonna lie, I was expecting the worst.
okay, and
personally,
I think it's different and unique.
Yeah, I was expecting the worst of this film because I was like, okay, maybe I can have some fun with it, but it's January horror movies. Those typically don't do well because studios just like to throw them out there, you know. So I was like, okay, some good scenes. I wasn't expecting the messages behind this film, especially the time period, the movie it was. I like that we got a really good story and some really good action scenes.
I will say, actually, though, thinking about January horror movies, and if we think about maybe three of the most successful January horror movies in recent years, they've all been Blumhouse, and that might be a strategy they're doing. So we have Get Out, which is a very early release in the
was that
beginning.
Was
January?
that January though?
January or February. I mean, same thing. It's in the first couple months of
Yeah.
the year. Invisible Man, same thing.
Yes, yeah, Visible Man.
And
Yeah,
luckily for Invisible Man, right before COVID started, that movie probably would have been stuck in hell for months
Yeah.
if it hadn't come out when it did.
and because it was a 2020 movie, in 2020 like had to like split Oscars and stuff like that. It should have been Best Picture nominated.
Hmm.
What the
Yeah.
if Get Out was nominated for Best Picture, so should have The Invisible Man because it's the same. For me, it's the same level.
Yeah. And I mean, also like last year we got Scream 5 in January. So it seems
Yeah.
like horror is turning it around of like maybe January horror doesn't have to be fucking Grudge remakes.
Well, and I think especially
Yeah.
with the summer kind of being taken over by
Big
these.
blockbusters.
Yeah, exactly. They're maybe having more, otherwise people wouldn't necessarily be going to the theater except to see some of these horror movies that maybe they wouldn't normally see.
Which is actually a very smart strategy. I would love to see, smaller horror movies from like Blumhouse or like, a radio silence horror film where they don't have to compete with something like an MCU film or a DC film or where they can take the box office and be like, okay, this is a really good movie. We have faith in it. Let's put it in January to maximize the profit and let's be the only ones that's doing something original.
Yeah, I mean, and what was Megan competing with when it came out? Puss in Boots, I think, and obviously the same. I mean, we actually did that as a double feature, but typically those are two movies that you're not taking your 5-year-old to go see.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there are some people who and there are a fair
Well,
number of
to be fair,
horror movies with literal toddlers in the audience.
And
yeah, I
dude,
don't.
Puss in Boots 2. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen.
I gotta watch that movie. But I mean, to be fair, Megan was
I-
also going head to head with Avatar: The Way of Water, but that was in its
Yeah.
like,
It was
multiple
in
weeks.
it had been out for a few weeks.
Yeah, which I still haven't seen it. I'm not really a big Avatar fan, so I don't really care about the franchise. But I mean, it's doing really well at the box office. I mean, $2 billion recently, so that's fantastic. Um, so let's get to, I guess, the first big death scene, which was Cole, her classmate. I love Megan like running like a fucking dog on all fours. Fucking terrifying, man. That was hilarious. Um, the fucking ear rip, like she just
Oh yeah.
That was something straight out of Matilda.
Well, yeah. I was like, I've just seen
Like
this.
that. I don't think ears do that. Man.
No,
I don't.
but it's fun.
But I mean, killer dolls are kind of a stretch too. So
Well, not real. I could actually see something like that happening. So I think that's like where, I mean, it didn't actually take me out of the movie, but I feel like it easily could have.
Mm.
For me, it's kind of Billy and Scream 5.
I
It's
guess
like,
maybe I wonder if they were trying to compensate for the fact that because it's PG-13, they can't show as much blood.
yeah,
Trying to give you some
Shock
kind of gore.
value.
Yeah. And that's the goriest you can get. I think
that was a James Wan call. I bet you that was a James Wan call. That seems like something he would do.
yeah. I mean, I think it is something like where you feel like Megan is, it's like it wants to be even more ridiculous than it actually is. So it felt so like bland in what we actually got that like Malignant, you're like, that's balls to the, like I would never tell someone watch Megan. That's insane, that move. No, I wouldn't say that. I'd go watch Megan, you might enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, Megan to me is something that you can show someone who's either not a horror fan or someone who like wants to get into horror. That's like this is a perfect like entryway for like younger people, like 15, 16, and they want to get into horror. This is perfect for them. And it's like me, I started with Scream. Maybe not the best option, but
I
I
think
mean,
Scream is the
Scream's actually a
perfect
perfect entry point.
I
entry
mean,
film.
for my age, I was like 8 or 9, but like yeah,
Yeah.
like I started like in the deep end and then just kind of like went further.
Yeah, I mean it is a rated R movie, Scream, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also feel like I don't mind when a horror movie goes kind of over the top. And I mean, I kind of knew that like okay, it's James Wan, you know, it's somebody who is coming off of Malignant. I didn't expect Malignant style of like crazy, but I just expected to have a good time. And then again, I had that fun. I had that laugh, you know, that laughter. Plus, I mean, the theater experience does go a long way for me. Like the actual in theater experience, you know, goes a long way. So I had the best theater experience watching it. So all of that just kind of hyped up how good this movie was to me because I had that, you know, the theater to myself, the food, the, like, you know, just laughing and having fun with it. That I some of the negative moments I can kind of like brush aside.
yeah, for sure. Even like other movies that I didn't like super enjoy upon rewatch as much. I liked a lot more. Like I remember, like I think I had Scream 5 like pretty high ranked after seeing it the first time, and then I just kept watching it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I don't know how Megan's gonna sit with me upon a rewatch. I liked it a
Mhm.
lot. I would probably just skip over all the dog parts.
Yeah,
And
fair enough.
Much so. I mean, it's not like it's
just like talking about
okay.
something like that, like
Yeah.
taking a life for granted, just like really upsets me. So I probably would skip over that part anyways. Hey,
Yeah,
I skip over the John Wick part for you. Also for me.
fair enough. Fair enough. But
That's
I mean,
watch.
like, see, that's where you know we differ, and I appreciate that. Every time I watch Scream 5, I like it more and more because I can notice like stuff that I like that I didn't notice previously, and I'm like, oh, I like how they tied this in, blah blah blah. But I mean, not a lot of people are going to like movies on a rewatch. I'm somebody who, if a movie can show me something different every time, I love going back to rewatch it. But if it's kind of just like bland, or if it's just like formulaic, or if it's just like, okay, I know what the twist is, and there's nothing really that leads up to the twist, I don't really like rewatching movies. So the fact that I can watch Scream 2022 like 7 times, 8 times now, and enjoy it like all the way through, really says something about me rewatching the film, I would say.
And so like for like Megan, like on that front, it's just like I think that's where I thought it was, is on the more nothing new, formulaic type of thing, but still somewhat enjoyable.
Mhm.
Especially because I like a lot of the actors, like I mentioned, in it. But upon rewatch, I'm wondering if I like it more, maybe because of watching it at home and I'm not having people like, I don't know what the hell they were doing over to my right, but they're doing something and it was distracting.
People just enjoy the movie. What are you doing?
Bring in your kids to, I know it's PG-13, but
But it's still a horror film.
still a horror film. And it's just like, if they're just going to be whispering to each other the whole time, like little kids are going to do in a movie. And then at the very end, it was like the little thing that lit up, like the Amazon Echo thing that lit up. And then the little girls next to me were like, that's Megan. Shut up.
I'm gonna say I definitely saw a couple movies like that when I was that age. It was probably just as obnoxious, so I can't say anything. Like, I remember going to see Boogeyman.
That was the Boogeyman.
Well, no, we thought it was scary at first, and then we kind of got like
Bored?
desensitized and bored, and then we just started laughing through the climax of the movie. So we probably pissed off whoever was in that.
I'm not gonna lie, I've done that too, but I feel like I'm more just like, I pay my money now to see this movie. I'm not gonna like talk and like fool around.
Well, I think, and
Yeah, you're
right,
one of the good ones.
I think it's I think it's excusable when you're a kid and you do that stuff. And what pisses me off, I think, is when grown adults do that, or grown adults. I think the kids who were in this movie with us were of an appropriate age to see this movie.
Yes.
We've had many instances though where we have, I can't remember what, maybe it was Barbarian. I think
it was Barbarian.
And okay,
there's a kid in there somewhere.
There was like a little small child.
Why?
A baby and a toddler people brought to see Barbie. And this is like a 10 p.m. showing. It's like not even a daytime showing. And someone actually walked out to complain because the babies were crying in the movie. And instead of kicking out the people with the teeny tiny little kids, they kicked out like 2 13-year-olds who were like perfectly behaving themselves and were just sitting separately from their dad.
That's crazy.
And like it was so dumb. And like,
don't bring your children to rated R horror films.
Yeah, I'm gonna say if you can't shell out for the babysitter, just wait for it to come on.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, please, for everyone's sake.
And it's just also like, the lady who was sitting next to me with her kids, just like, if your kids are just like shifting around like the whole time and like whispering to each other, just like tell them to stop or take them out. Like, it's just like, I don't know, in a movie that you're watching that's about being a good parent and you're not
be a good parent.
I don't know what the hell you're doing. Like, I hate to judge people like that and their parenting, but like, if you're annoying me in a movie, I can't forget.
Which again, with that experience, Chad, I am curious if you'll like Megan more when you're able to watch it by itself. You know what I mean?
I didn't hate Megan.
Yeah, I know.
I actually did really like the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one of those things where, like, to me, I'm not saying just yet that this is gonna, even though it's like the only horror, it's like that and the Sick movie that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not ready to say, oh, this is gonna be one of the best horror movies this year.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
To say that just yet, but
I hope it's not the best horror movie.
I hope it's not either, because then it would be kind of a shitty year.
Yeah, which
they're all the same. They're all great.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, 2022 had movies pretty much throughout the whole year that was just like, man, like, I can't pick a top now. Like,
dude, Scream 5 was not your number one. Just like,
I know. It was my number 3, and I watched it 5 times.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like saying, like, you see one that you're like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you want, and then like more come out and you're like, oh my god, I have like
you're
a whole 20 movies.
Look, X and Pearl, like, in the same year. That's fucking amazing. Like I don't know how Ty West did that, and Maxine this year,
Yeah.
dude. This year is probably gonna be the year of Mia Goth. You got Infinity Pool coming out soon. Then you got Maxine towards the end of the year. Like those two performances could be stellar.
And I was just actually talking to Kerri that we should actually do this. Is we should have an episode soon where we compile all of the announced like horror movies and we just do maybe like our top 10 like most anticipated and just try to like talk about like what we're wanting to see really badly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like horror movies that were announced that are very exciting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Like I did like a top 5 most anticipated horror on my TikTok, but doing a top 10 would be fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
I would really
And everybody and their mom can guess what my most anticipated was.
Oh, well, of course. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about Megan. I mean, I think the doll itself was really creepy.
I do want to give a shout out to the actress who played Megan,
Mhm.
Amy Donald. She did incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I love when they go on the like little children like retreat where they get to play games and whatever, kind of a camp type thing. And she's like, "Oh, is that your other daughter? Holy shit!" And
Yeah.
she's like,
Holy shit.
And then she's like kind of irresponsible too.
Oh, she is so
I'm like,
irresponsible.
she's like, "Oh, she even really shouldn't have this out of here. It's a prototype. It's just no pictures." I'm like, you should not have that prototype out there. That's like
You shouldn't even have
violating
that
some company policy.
Well, I mean, again,
very unrealistic.
oh yeah, I mean that's kind of the point of Gemma's character, though, is that as the movie progresses, she does get more responsible for Katie, which I appreciate that it wasn't just like she was irresponsible the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the whole thing about the guy who was like taking like the secrets from the company and he like, was putting it in Paul's files. And then later Megan, like, I guess punishes him for doing that or something like that.
Well, I think she just makes it a setup so she's not blamed.
That's true. But it also just kind of felt like a throwaway plot.
I did think they were gonna like have that be like the setup for the sequel. Like
I'm pretty sure that is gonna be the sequel.
Well, he's dead.
Well, he's dead, but they could say like he already passed off the files. Although
to a rival company.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that rival company takes it up, and then Megan transfers her from the Echo or whatever to.
I keep forgetting that there's going to be a sequel, and then I'm like, okay, so now it might be actually more interesting to watch it from that perspective. What could they do with the sequel?
I thought they were going to do it a little bit more obvious, like tee it up for a sequel that way, like be like show instead of, because I think at the end they teed it up with like the Alexa device kind of showing up,
glowing. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more like, they cut to the rival company and they open up the files and they're like, "Ooh, we've got Megan." Like,
I'm glad they didn't do that because it
right.
wasn't guaranteed that there was going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
It's like Megan's consciousness is in the Wi-Fi.
It's like Megan 2.0 patented.
And then Megan 2.0 is going to start and it's going to have Violet and she's a little bit older now. And then she's going to be like, just kind of seeing Megan and the reflections everywhere and getting scared.
It's a Child's Play sequel.
Child's Play too.
She's just gonna be like.
I mean, right? But is that not what they're gonna do? We'll
definitely.
See.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the fact that like the original writers are coming back for the sequel, and the Allison Williams and Violet Davis are coming back as well.
McGraw.
Okay, so they're gonna do it.
And it is going to be the rival company that makes the new Megan.
All right, Megan 3.0 has to be Megan versus Chucky. That has to be.
Yes.
Megan versus Chucky versus Annabelle.
Yes, all the dolls.
Shit, dude.
Nice.
Versus Ash. Wait, what?
Yes, Ash is in there for some reason.
Chainsaw to the dolls.
Oh, this has gotten way off topic, kind of.
Yeah.
I like talking about potential sequel. It's fun.
All right, I think that's where we are going to end it. Unless you guys have anything else to say about Megan.
Well, Violet does get really crazy in this movie.
She
I'm
slaps the fuck out of Gemma.
Yeah, I'm like,
She does a really
she
good
was
job
over
though.
the top. I was like, God damn, she's so
She
crazy.
did a really good
Like
job.
it's like that, like dependence on that doll makes you go nuts. Holy
It's like a drug, man. It's like, I need my Megan.
I need my Megan.
That should be the tagline. I need my Megan.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
But yeah, everybody does a very great job, which I
Very well.
like when horror movies, because it's so easy to like go completely campy and not care. But I like the fact that like Allison Williams shows up, like Violet McGraw shows up to act, like
Yeah.
and it's great because it's like Allison Williams, like with this performance and Get Out, she is really good in horror films.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like listening to interviews and stuff, you can tell she's actually a big fan of horror too. So she has that love for the genre as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, is there anything else before we close it out?
No.
All right, well, Chad and Kerri, where can people find you online?
I don't have anything.
Like always, check me over at Dill Pickle Movie Network with Picture This. We're doing The Godfathers. Check out my channel, Chadwick Webb, where we rank shit. We did Disney animated, and then pretty soon we're gonna rank some other stuff, and it's gonna be really fun. So check that out, and yeah, go watch Megan and The Menu.
Yes.
They're great.
All right, guys. If you did enjoy this, hit the like button, subscribe to the Entertainment Network down below. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Peace. Gotta hold it.